Hey guys, Ben Labadie here, and I'm with a great panel today. Mayor Darrin Canniff, budget chair, is that what it is?
Yeah, budget chair, yeah.
Brock McGregor, who's a councillor here in Chatham-Kent, and Mike Turner, the CFO, Chief Financial Officer for Chatham-Kent. So the goal today is for you guys kind of just to be accessible to everybody and be presentable and let them ask questions. So if you have budget questions or any questions regarding that, ask away. This is a great opportunity. I want to thank you guys for doing this because I don't see anybody ever doing this live and putting themselves out there like that, or any other community doing it. So thank you very much. So everybody knows you're the mayor. Everybody knows you, Brock. Mike, who are you? And can you tell people?
Yeah, who are you?
You know, you got an important position here, okay? And not many people know what the CFO does or what exactly position is. Could you give us an idea of what that is kind of quickly?
Sure, Ben. So my role is as Chief Financial Officer is basically to work with the departments across the organization and to help them with any financial decisions that they need to make, and then we present that to council. So it's to try and present, advice to council on how we should, finance various things and, do our operating stuff. So right now, obviously the big push is the budget. We're in the middle of the budget right now, and so our group presents the budget, and we also facilitate the budget.
All right. Now I'm going to go to you, Brock. Brock, what is kind of the process that's happening now? Because you got budget meetings that people can go to. You just did one here in Blenheim.
Yeah.
And there's one happening in Wellsburg right now as well?
Yes, and then tomorrow night we'll be in Chatham. Last night they occurred in Tilbury and Dresden.
Okay.
So essentially this process, as Mike was saying, administration's tasked with putting together a draft budget. So that's based on direction that council sets over the term of council, decisions we make on a monthly basis. Then when we get to this process, that draft budget's done. Then it's really turned over to the budget committee. So that's all the members of council. We finalize that budget. So that's making decisions on funding and really getting to that final number. And as part of that process, it's really important to get feedback from residents. So in order to facilitate that, there's a couple different tools we use. So there's an online survey that's been going on for a couple of years. We also do information nights. So we try and get out to different communities. People come out, ask questions, see a brief presentation, and give some feedback that way. And then during the actual deliberations themselves, residents can come out and do a deputation just like they would at a council meeting. So they can get up and talk to us about what they think is important, things that they'd like to see included in the budget or things they'd like to see changed. And we take all that feedback and use that as part of the decision-making process.
Awesome stuff. Now, Mike, can you give us kind of like an overview of where we're at? And like, what do people ask? What kind of question should I be asking you? What should I look at overall here? If you had to give an overview.
Sure. So where we're at with the budget right now is we're at 2.03%. So that's what we've presented to council. And included in that budget is significant spending on infrastructure. So infrastructure has really been the big topic that we've heard in the last couple of days at the open houses. So people want to know about, how do you spend money on roads? How do you do gravel roads? What about the storm sewers? Those types of things. So certainly a real focus of the budget this year is infrastructure. The other spending is on the strategic objectives that council sets for us. So they have a number of areas that they want to focus on, and we're putting forward spending specifically towards those items.
Okay, awesome stuff. Hey guys, hit that share button. And before we go any further, I just want to thank Jamie Richards, who owns this great facility here, the Life by Design Center, Charlie's Cafe. He's got a chiropractic office right here too. Darrin, can you speak that? You talked to Jamie just for a couple of minutes there.
This is fantastic. We have a head office here. They have over 40 offices across 7 countries here, and where they've picked Blenheim, Ontario as their head office. Yeah. That's a fantastic. It's probably not very well known, but it's a pretty amazing story.
It is a very amazing story. So he moved back to Blenheim. That was one of the biggest factors because he could go anywhere, right? And he chose to come back here, which is pretty amazing. So I just wanted to make sure that we thanked him for just allowing us to be here in Blenheim. And I also want to thank the other councillors, Karen Kirker-White, Amy Finn, Trevor Thompson, Anthony Sakachi, and Claire Latimer is here. So we want to thank everybody else, and they might be up there a little bit later. So I'm going to hit you guys with a question that I get hit with, you get hit with all the time. The pay raises that you received. A lot of people are kind of they don't really know. And I know you did a great video. I seen it. Can you give a little overview or kind of let these people know the answer to that, how that happened, and
Sure.
Yeah.
Darrin did a video, so I'll try and summarize. And it's a question actually we received tonight at the open house. So yeah, a common question that we get. So Essentially what happened is for decades, council compensation, mayor compensation across Ontario was 1/3 tax exempt. So the federal government gave a third exemption to all honorariums, and that essentially was to subsidize communities to make it more affordable for them to pay honorariums to councillors and mayors. Very recently, they decided to get rid of that 1/3 tax exemption. So essentially what they've done is they were in a way funding part of compensation for council members and mayors. They've removed that funding, and that's moved back onto the taxpayer. So, there's a lot of different ways to term it. You hear the word raise sometime. I can, attest that a councillor last year or a councillor this year will still make less than a councillor did last year.
After tax,
despite how this is made, what's happened. So I think that's an important thing to keep in mind, and really that review was born out of that change in government policy around the third council exemption. So a lot of municipalities have been looking at how they would deal with that as well. Some had dealt with it years before now, and this is a time when every council is going to have to deal with it because it's not an option anymore.
Awesome stuff. Okay, we do have a question. What has been the trend in the tax increases for the last 10 years? Mike, can we go to you for that one?
So over the last 10 years, we've raised taxes 18.5%. So if you actually do the math, 18.5 divided by 10, so it's an average of about 1.85% increase per year. I think the important thing to note on that is all of that money has gone to infrastructure spending. So we've actually done reviews of all of our departmental expenses, and we've actually reduced our departmental expenses by 0.3% over that 10 years. So as you can see, we spend a significant amount of time trying to make all of our operations more efficient,
right,
and really focus on the infrastructure.
So to summarize that, just over the last 10 years, if we hadn't spent any more on infrastructure, we had kept it flat at that 10 years, we would have had a 0% tax increase for the last 10 years. So we've been absorbing that inflationary increase every year. So every year, costs go up. So we've absorbed that inefficiencies throughout the municipality. We're spending on infrastructure because we need to invest in Chatham-Kent.
Awesome. Hey guys, ask some questions. Everybody seems to say this is awesome. You did the polar plunge, but we do want some questions too.
I'm still recovering from that. Yes.
While I learned this question here, tell us about that polar plunge. How cold was it?
It was very cold, and you could tell by the picture of us going in. We were anticipating very cold, and it was. I wouldn't want to stay in there much more than the 10-15 seconds we were.
Okay, now we got one from BJ Griffith. I'm going to read it out here. Has the mayor given any thought to banding with other councils in Ontario in partnership with their local MPs to fight federal government to get a tax exemption put back into place so we are, as the taxpayers, not flipping the bill for that? Is that something that can be done?
So there was a position, I believe, put out at one point by the Association of Municipalities of Ontario to that effect. I mean, at the end of the day, that's not a decision that council and the mayor are going to have, but it does speak to a trend in how greatly municipalities are impacted by provincial and federal decisions. So, for example, we look at the budget this year, and normally we'd find out about a significant portion of our provincial funding in November. And we still haven't got a clear answer on that, and that makes the budget process very difficult. So if you look at the amount of money that the municipality spends, a fairly significant portion is actually from provincial dollars. If those provincial dollars change significantly, that has a very drastic impact on ability to maintain services and fund infrastructure.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So AMO, just so everyone knows, it's an association of all the municipalities across Ontario. What they do, they monitor trends that the provincial and federal governments are doing and ensure that they're being friendly to the municipalities.
Okay.
So in this case, they would have looked at that and said, yes, you're downloading costs, what should we do? Certainly there's a lot of fights. They chose to say, okay, we're not going to fight this one, but there's a lot of other ones that are happening that they do fight.
Awesome stuff. Okay, we got one from Pierre Rio. Why aren't we looking into making recycling mandatory? This would generate an income, especially apartments. I don't know. We're going to get hit with a lot of questions, okay? Anybody want to answer that or tackle it? Because that's a difficult one.
Yeah, I think, well, recycling in general, I've seen received a few questions actually recently about this, and we are coming up to a renewal of waste collection, the contract, and that's an opportunity where we can look at, are we to include organics and pickup, compost. A lot of people in the community say, we go to other communities, they have compost curbside pickup, why don't we? So there's some options for some changes in the way we do things that I think make some sense around that time. So I'm not sure about the mandatory language around that. I know certainly we do have some instances where we monitor and do some examples of what's getting into trash and shouldn't be, and certainly there's a lot of information out there about how to recycle responsibly, because that has a big impact on our community, especially when we host a landfill site. We definitely want to divert everything we can into recycling and into organics.
Certainly, we want to encourage recycling. I mean, it's for a lot of reasons, it's the right thing to do. But how would we monitor that? If we said, thou must put everything in recycle, we'd have to go start digging through garbage bags and everything to assess that. So I'd like to encourage people to do it, but there's going to be that odd person that's not going to want to do it. And
Absolutely. Okay, we got one from Brandy, and this is a good one. And is there any extra money for recreation for kids, example, summer camps in small towns in this budget?
That's a great question. We've went through, over the last couple of months, we've toured with about 170 organizations across Chatham-Kent. There's service clubs, sports organizations, arts and culture groups. So in the budget, we've included $62,000 for additional grants, and there's an additional $338,000 being asked for to cover off that whole sector, to support various things like those youth camps. There's a number of different things. Maybe a little later on, we'll get into a few of the things that are there, but we heard a lot of great things. The beauty is those organizations, they're all volunteer driven, and they're highly motivated to make a big difference. We as a municipality need to support those groups. If we try to do what they did, it would cost us millions to fill in of the great work they're doing across our municipality.
All right.
And I think that question may also specifically be asking about camps in Bothwell and Tilbury. So we know that there was some, through CK Rec, some summer camp programs run there, that some funding changed. They weren't necessarily going to be there again. Councillor Harrigan did put forward a motion to have that included in budget deliberation. So that's something that we'll actually see in the first couple nights of budget that we'll be talking about.
Awesome.
Sorry, just to add some clarity on there. So our budget deliberations, as Mike pointed out, we're starting at 2%. But over each meeting, we're going to go through, and councillors will decide to add things or subtract things, and we'll vote on it. So 2% is not the final budget. We'll decide, so there's going to be some really good things that we'll want to add, and there's going to be some things, as council, we decide, no, what administration's recommending we don't want in there. So that's the importance of getting the feedback now, because nothing is settled in that budget as of yet. So we want your comments, we want your feedback.
Awesome. Okay, thank you, Brandy, for that. We have one from Rob McQueen. Are there any statistics comparing tax increases with economic growth in Chatham-Kent? So, is there any statistics comparing tax increases with economic growth in Chatham-Kent?
We'll look to our CFO for that one.
And again, anybody who's watching this, if we don't have all the answers for you right now, we can follow up later with you. So, but you want to tackle that one?
So there is a lot of work done on economic development. That's one of the key focuses that is one of council's objectives. We do have some statistical stuff, but we don't really have like a chart saying, if we spend X on tax increases, because the tax increases aren't necessarily specific to the economic development. So I would say, no, we don't necessarily have a chart on it, but we have, some of the results of the economic development over the last number of years. And of course, we also have another list that would show what our increases have been in taxes.
Okay, and there's been some effort to change some of the ratios. So if you look at our industrial ratio of our tax rate, it's actually quite a bit lower than a lot of communities, and that's a strategy through economic development to try and spur some growth.
Awesome, thanks, Rob.
And I want to add just on the economic development side, within the budget, I know they're asking for one more person in the department, but what they've done is they've reallocated all the resources within to focus on Chatham-Kent. Previously, there's some money being spent for ventures outside of Chatham-Kent. We're really refocusing that money so that we're going to be paying more attention to BIAs, small business in Chatham-Kent. That's where the growth is.
Awesome. Okay, thanks, Rob, for that. Now we have one, Tiffany, and this one's from Mike. Mike Turner, are you anticipating a large change in provincial funding for local housing funding?
I would say we're not anticipating a significant change. I think housing is an important focus for council. I think it is also an important piece for the province and the federal government as well. So we're certainly hopeful that there won't be any changes. Our concern is that the province has been looking at all of our funding and is really looking at decreasing funding because of the certain situation that they're in at the province right now. So we're hopeful that there won't be any decreases. Potentially there may be new programs as well, and we'd certainly embrace those as well.
All right, thank you, and thank you for that question. Pierre Rio again, what cuts are coming for sure? Have we challenged each department to save money? So do we know anywhere where there's anything being cut for sure?
Well, that'll be determined at our budget meetings in the
Okay.
next couple of weeks as far as what's going to be accepted or not. The second is, have we challenged each department to save money? On a consistent basis, we're challenging that, and it's seen over the stat we gave earlier. The last 10 years, if we weren't spending additional money on infrastructure, it would have been a 0% tax increase for the last 10 years. So
Okay.
certainly, to offset those inflationary increases, there's costs being cut. And certainly, there's always more to do. Not to say that we're done. There's always better ways to do things.
Okay, here's a question that not a lot of people know about. Jonathan North says, does Chatham-Kent make any money from these wind turbines? Okay, do we make any money? Is there taxes? How do you count that? Turbines generating revenue, I guess.
Okay, so absolutely, we do get property taxes from them. It's based on the sort of megawatts, but we get about $2.5 million annually in property taxes from them. Some of the most recent projects, we have worked out some for them to come here and worked out an agreement where we actually have gotten some lump sum funding. We got $4 million from the North Kent Wind project that is going to go into strategic reserves to be used by council to do some kind of a project.
And as well, they contribute to a community fund each year, which distributes hundreds of thousands a year out through Chatham-Kent to various charitable organizations.
Awesome. Okay, Tiffany says we can't make everyone happy, but she thinks everyone's doing very well. That's good stuff to hear. Let's see here. Still want to hear about proposed cuts. Okay, Pierre, we're trying, and we can follow up. And another way for people to participate is show up at these some of these meetings. How many more meetings do you guys have that people can show up to?
So we have the community meeting in Chatham at the Adult Lifestyle Center tomorrow. So that's from 4:30 to 6. Then individuals can submit and do a deputation to council. So actually during the budget deliberations, which are next Wednesday and Thursday for sure, and then the following Tuesday. And they can come in and do a 5-minute presentation to council. Doesn't have to be super formal. You don't have to have a bunch of slides prepared or anything. You can come and sort of say your piece, and that's an opportunity. And I would encourage too, in the meantime, I'm looking out at the councillors sitting behind the camera, and they answer their emails and answer the phones. So if you do have a pressing concern, email us, call us, and we'd be happy to talk about it.
And just maybe to address Pierre's question, he talked about what cuts are coming for sure. Administration has recommended there's 7 or 8 roles to be cut. Mm-hmm. And I fully suspect that those cuts will be supported, and that yes, there will be a number of roles being cut. They've also proposed added roles, and that will be determined at council whether they're going to be accepted or not.
Awesome stuff. And I want to go back to that deputation thing.
Yep.
Is that an intimidating thing? And what would people come to do a deputation for example, if you got one?
Oh, they're very wide-ranging. I'm sure there's a component of public speaking, so some people are a little nervous when they get up there, but certainly we see people from all walks of life, all age groups. There's been high school students up there giving deputations, right to the most senior members of our community, and they can really range. So when we're talking about budget, this is things that impact your life on a daily basis. It's infrastructure and recreation programming and arenas, all those types of things. So really people come up with all sorts of deputations. They can be very entertaining at times,
yes.
very informative at times.
Well, we had one question tonight about an art space. It's in downtown Chatham.
Okay, yep.
The proposal is to cut that. She very much felt that should not be cut, that there should be storefront for that. So that's something, there will be deputations coming up next week, people saying, I don't want that cut. I think it's a valuable thing in the community. And then we'll have to deliberate as a council based on what we know.
Awesome. Let's see here. Will you network into the GTA for more incentives for smaller businesses to open up into the Chatham-Kent area to help with more industries within time? I don't know. What kind of incentives can you provide to outside businesses to come in? Is there tax? You can't do tax incentives, can you?
Well, we do have some community improvement plans, and based on meeting certain criteria for a new business, based on the number of people that they hire and volumes of money spent and stuff, we do have programs that are called a tax increment grant.
Okay.
That they can get a reduced tax over a number of years where it's a declining scale, but they pay their taxes, we do grant it back over time. So it is an incentive. We also have other incentives to try and help people with like improving the facades of their buildings, a variety of other things like remediation grants for people who have brownfields, those kind of things. So we do have a number of programs that certainly encourage business to come to Chatham.
And we can help with recruitment as well. A lot of things we're doing is trying to attract new people to the community as well as link employees with employers.
Okay.
Like a job fair, for instance. We did a job fair recently and had over 400 jobs posted and had a lot of people coming here to look at them.
Awesome. Okay, I think we got a tough one coming in here from Mary. I am an aging baby boomer, and looking into the future, I have heard many negative things regarding staffing levels at Riverview Gardens. Being that the municipality should be a leader in healthcare, can I ask why in the proposed budget is there no added funding set aside to increase direct nursing hours for the people? So that's a tough question that you guys are getting hit with here.
Yeah, it would be, generally, we probably don't have the best person here to answer that question. So when we look at Riverview Gardens in particular, it's a complex place to manage with regards to provincial funding. So it's not the case where we have some direct input into what's going on there, but there are models of funding based on resident need, and then that determines staffing levels. And there's provincial mandates that need to be met. So it's unfortunately not as simple as saying we need to do a bit better and let's put some more money at it. And there has been a lot of work from the management side. There's a new strategic plan being developed at Riverview Gardens. There's been some changes around staffing and hiring and what that's going to look like, all with the goal of providing better care. So unfortunately, it's not as easy as just a budget line item. It's a very complex process, but it's something that we hear a lot about. We hear a lot of need in that sector, and certainly are aware that there needs to be improvement.
Okay, and somebody can always maybe follow up with Mary later, because these are big
Absolutely.
questions. And just to the people watching, you guys get hit with questions all the time that are very difficult. This is hard to do, to get you guys on the spot and answer all these, and we always don't have the best answer. So I applaud you guys one more time for stepping up, here and interacting with the community here. Let's see here. I already got a tax increase in the mail before the budget is even passed. How could this happen? How does that happen? Just so everybody can simplify how that works.
Okay, so generally the first interim bill that's sent out is based on the same taxes from the last final billing from the previous year. But sometimes when people have the reassessed value that's getting phased in, if their reassessed amount is higher than the average assessment in town, then they would have a slight increase.
Okay.
And there's some really great videos to outline how that works. So actually, when your house gets reassessed and your rate goes up, the municipality doesn't capture any more money from that. If someone else's assessment has gone down or stayed the same, their taxes would go down slightly.
Okay.
So that's kind of a confusing thing to look at. You get that bill, you're like, I'm paying more. They must be getting more.
Yep.
That's not quite how it works. So we can forward you certainly that video if you want to link that out too. And it's
Absolutely.
It's been a helpful thing when I was getting involved, looking at and adding some clarity. And I'm sure that that would be helpful for people to take a look at.
Awesome. I think you guys had a deputation the other day from Ryan Jackson about an outdoor hockey rink.
Yes.
And I think we got a question. We need an outdoor hockey rink for kids to get healthy. And how does that go about? How does that somehow squeeze into the budget if possible? Or what do they have to do? What's the follow-up there for that? For example, like you do a deputation, you want to throw something in the budget to help or get support there. How do you go about that?
Yeah, it's the budget offers a great opportunity to do that. It's challenging to take that request and in a week turn it around and get a budget line in there, but it is a really good opportunity for them to get before council, talk about their priorities, talk about what they want to see in Chatham-Kent, and it's an opportunity to start networking and build some relationships. So there's other groups that are interested in that same sort of development of an outdoor ball hockey space. Certainly, I think I even saw maybe Councillor Finn just mentioned on there that she's working on it right now. So just shows that. We like to see these deputations. It doesn't always mean that it's something that can be turned around in a week and put into a budget, but it is a great starting point for people to get some face time and talk about what matters to them.
And one of the things that in the short term we'd love to do is get the arenas in the short term to offer very attractive rates so they could play in those. I mean, they're sitting empty in the summer, so if we could start utilizing those for a very attractive rate, then we've got the facility there, why not be using it?
Yeah, so let's go back to that, the arenas and that. So the usage I hear is down of the arenas. Is that correct what I heard?
Yes.
And our rates are higher. And back to what you were just saying there, how do we do that to kind of encourage more people to participate or take up ice time, especially old timers?
That's something we've really focused on in our visits. We visited dozens of groups that touch the arena. So we've looked at, there's a lot of issues. So what we're doing is we're doing a complete review of the entire process. So we're looking at the arenas, what we charge, how we're doing it, the A to Z, with the whole idea is they're going to come up with recommendations of what we can do to improve the utilization of the facilities. We want to see them succeed, all 10 of them. We want to see all 10 succeed. So how are we going to get people in the arena, but we can't outprice the market?
Absolutely. Now, let's go into, you've done a couple of these kind of town hall budget meeting things. What is one of the questions that you get hit with regularly that that you don't really normally expect? Anybody want to tackle that?
That we don't expect. There are some questions that I think we really expect. So the focus that I've seen so far this year is in infrastructure. So that's something that's really easy to see, right? So you drive on the roads, you see the arenas, you experience infrastructure. It's a very tactile thing. So understandably, that's where a lot of questions come from. We talk about gravel a lot, we talk about road upkeep, and we really talk about the challenge in a really large community, large geographic space, trying to keep up with that, and our plan to try and chip away at this deficit. We know that funding isn't where it needs to be to replace everything that needs to be replaced and fix everything that needs to be fixed, and that needs to have a long-term plan to meet those commitments and chip away at the deficit. So I think that's the thing I hear the most is people talking about those very visible infrastructure deficits that they see in the community.
How much of the tax dollar does infrastructure take? So when somebody says they pay $2,000 in taxes, what percentage of that goes to infrastructure specifically?
It's probably about a third of their actual tax money that we bring in.
Okay.
Goes specifically to infrastructure. So, if you're paying $2,800 as your average, then probably 2/3 of that amount is going to other expenses. 1/3 of it is going directly to infrastructure.
To put it in perspective as well, we have the value of our assets, $4.5 billion of assets in Chatham-Kent that we have to maintain through taxes. So virtually every asset we have is depreciating other than land. But that's what this is all going towards. We have to keep revitalizing. Just like your house, you need to put a new roof on it. You need to do various things to maintain it. We have to do that with $4.5 billion worth of assets.
Alrighty. Okay, we have one from Eric Fitzgerald, a fellow realtor. Actually, he just got an award for being a realtor. Is there funding for the greening strategy? The greening strategy. I'm guessing that has something to do with environmental.
I'm not exactly sure what is meant by the greening strategy, so maybe he could clarify and we can
Eric,
respond.
clarify that if you can.
We can get back to him on that, but there is a carbon reduction plan that the municipality has looked at in the past. That's through planning, and if you look across departments, there's a lot of different initiatives that have been taken to promote environmental sustainability. So certainly some of that's contingent on provincial and federal money. So if we look at what was called the old FIT program, where we put solar panels on roofs of municipally owned buildings, that was part of an environmental sustainability plan.
Okay.
So there's quite a bit of background work behind that. If Eric's interested, there's an event at the library on Sunday night talking about environmental sustainability, and the municipal responsibility around that will be part of that presentation as well.
Awesome.
And as well, Eric, on one program within the $400,000 that we're contemplating as well is setting a target for increased trees.
Okay.
So I'd like to see a target set along with a number of other targets that we can start achieving by putting money towards it, working with the community in public-private partnerships. I'd love to see 1 million trees in a short period of time put up in Chatham-Kent to increase the tree cover.
That's quite an ambitious thing. 1 million trees.
Yeah.
Okay.
It can be done.
It can be done. Okay, we got Daniel Brousseau. He is saying CK Transit, CK Transit, CK Transit. This is budget related. Can you guys give me a rundown on CK Transit and if there's anything more or less, an overview? That's it.
Well, CK Transit is a contracted out service.
Okay.
We're in the midst of that contract right now. But it is a real focus, the whole transportation concept in Chatham-Kent. So I know that the new council is certainly putting forward committees to look at how we can improve the transportation all the way across the community, and a lot of it may be helping some of the more vulnerable population as far as the transportation goes. It's always something that we look at. Some of that is based on provincial funding as well, so we're kind of waiting to hear how that's going to go. A lot of our interurban bus is funded specifically from the provincial gas tax.
Okay. Now, with the committees and that, how does somebody get involved in getting more input on CK Transit? If there's committees like that? Or
So there is a new committee being formed, and that was a motion from Councillor Kirkwood White.
Okay.
So that's fairly new. There will be some information on the municipal website, I imagine, around that. It's pretty new, so we don't have a whole lot of information. If you're really interested, I bet you could email Councillor Kirkwood White, and she could give some information about that.
And with the whole objective of that is to improve transportation across Chatham-Kent. We realize that is a significant issue for a lot of people that can't get to work, people that can't get their children to daycare because they lack transportation, traveling between communities.
Awesome. Okay, we got one from Ryan Jackson, who did run for council in Ward 6. During the election, we became aware that the current Chatham-Kent drug strategy is not being properly funded. Will this be looked at during the budget deliberations?
So there is not a direct budget line that would have to do with that particular program. That's a really great point that Ryan brings up. There's actually, in February, there's going to be an educational conference on harm reduction and the drug strategy in Chatham-Kent with some frontline staff. So I think that's an important step that we're taking. And it's not as easy as putting some money directly into a program. We really need to figure out a holistic approach to how we deal with this in the community. And that is not necessarily just a municipal initiative. That's something that involves a lot of public and private partners. It definitely has a strong home in public health, and as a member of the Board of Health, we are well aware of that problem, and we're looking at ways that we can be part of the solution. There's a lot of work going on around the province by public health organizations that are really trying to figure out the best way to have the biggest impact on that issue. That the answers aren't simple by any means, and it's not something that you're going to turn around in a day or a week or a year, but it's definitely something that's a focus of healthcare and of health promotion in Ontario.
Awesome. Hey guys, we're going to take some more questions, but again, I want to thank Jamie Richards and the Life by Design Center for allowing us to be here tonight at Charlie's Cafe. I want to thank Mayor Darrin Canniff, Brock McGregor, and Mike Turner for being here and being able to answer your questions, and you for watching and hitting that share button that you see in front of you. So we got another question here, and this is from Carol. Is there any present negotiation regarding Navistar, given the fact that the casino will be in operation this year, and that will be a focal point in Chatham for the next little while? And I know a lot of things are confidential that you cannot answer or whatever, but can we touch that question there?
Certainly, I can touch to the extent that certainly it is top of our radar to ensure that that gets redeveloped. So we're always looking at various strategies to do that. My preference is not to own it from a municipal perspective, that private industry take a look at it and redevelop it. So we're certainly looking at all options, because we don't want to see that as it is an eyesore for the next 20 years.
Okay. So thank you, Carol, for that question. And Eric, it was introduced when the tree cutting policy was voted down. That is the greening funding.
Yeah, so Eric, if you want to email me, I will follow up with this. I recognize what you're talking about now, and I believe there's some partnerships with the Lower Thames Valley Conservation Authority on that. But email me, and I will get back to you with a more fulsome update than just that.
Awesome. Okay, and Daniel has another one. I think he asked it before. I don't even know this one. Question: CK Cash Pass. I don't know what that is. Online option. Where is it at? Where can they find something like that? Is there a site that you can buy Cash Pass from? Transit thing?
The transit pass, right? That's not something I know off the top of my head. Certainly, I recognize that name from an email train, I believe. So we can get back and talk about that. There was an update recently that we were talking about. I don't know if that's completed. So certainly we can re-engage with Daniel there and get an answer.
Awesome stuff. Will the Via Fast Track be built from Union Station to Windsor? Can we predict the future? Anybody can?
Well, it's been in discussion since the 1990s.
Yeah.
So I don't see there being
train.
there's billions of dollars, and it's going to have to go through a lot of farmers' fields, and it's cut. So there's still a whole lot of issues. I'm not sure in the next 4 years we'll be seeing any fast train anywhere between Union Station and Windsor.
But if there was, it would
If there
go
was,
through us,
yes.
right? Absolutely.
Any different thought on that?
The super train.
Yeah, there was a commitment, from the past provincial government about high-speed rail with a very long lens, so looking out a number of years. Obviously, there's been a change in provincial governments. There hasn't been a lot of talk about that recently. There's other options out there. If Terrence Johnson was watching, he probably would like to chime in and add a few paragraphs. But
Terrence is always watching.
So it'll be. I think that there's going to be some more discussion around what transit's going to look like throughout the province. But we haven't heard any updates about that.
Okay. Hey guys, we're going to be wrapping it up with these guys shortly, and then we're going to have Trevor Thompson, Anthony Sakachi, and Claire Latimer come on. They are Ward 2 councillors here, and we are in Blenheim, and so they'll be coming on. So if you guys got any last questions for these guys, let us know right now. And while another question may or may not be coming in, Darrin, how are you liking the job?
I love the job, and we've been here 8 weeks. What's made it super good is the people we're meeting. We've met with hundreds and hundreds, well, probably thousands of people, with counselors. Like they have joined in so many meetings. They're joining in. They're learning along with me and various other things. So key is we're working together as a team to make a difference in Chatham-Kent. So that aspect has been phenomenal.
Yeah, and I see other counselors out there in Wellsburg. Aaron and Carmen are doing like coffee sit-ins, and I know these guys from Ward 2 are coming up, and they got some stuff planned. Brock, I haven't seen Ward 6 be doing any of these things.
Ward 6, we'll talk about it, but we'll get through budget first.
Yes.
And certainly anyone can reach any of the Ward 6 councillors, by email or by phone. I never say no to a sit down at coffee at William Street Cafe or Sam's.
Yep.
If we get the opportunity, and you get those calls a lot, and I'm more than happy to meet up with anyone who wants to and discuss some issues.
Absolutely. And everybody seems to me has been more accessible. Like every single counselor that was elected just seems very accessible. And I've never seen that. Like I've ran for council and lost 3 times. So I'm always watching, but I've never seen the amount of accessibility and the people actually knowing who their counselor is and who to talk to and being able to. Do you find that a little bit more now, Brock?
Yeah, and I think it's a product of social media, right? Like you can't not find somebody. So if someone wants to get a hold of you, they can find you on Twitter, they can find you on Facebook. Email's super easy to use. So I think that's a big component of that is that people expect that you're going to be able to respond quickly, which we try to do our best at. And they do expect that accountability and that accessibility, which I know all of us are working really hard to provide. And there's just so many great ways to do that now, and it's so easy. Events like this, Facebook Live events, email, Twitter. There's all these opportunities to reach out and have that two-way conversation, which is really helpful.
Awesome. Okay, we got Roy and Joyce. They have a good one. Why are our taxes going up in Chatham-Kent? Chatham-Kent pays enough.
Well, I would conclude it's infrastructure. If we were properly funded in infrastructure, every municipality across Canada has problems with that, is that they have billions of dollars of assets to maintain. If we were at that level, as I said earlier, we'd have 0% tax increase for the last 10 years. But it's not prudent for us to not invest in the community. We stopped doing that. If we had complaints about roads now, we would have we would have mega complaints. We have to invest in Chatham-Kent.
Now again, a lot of people don't understand it, and as a realtor, when I'm out there and I have to explain some taxes sometimes, we don't have the amount of people for the amount of incredible area we have. Is there a ratio that we know of per kilometer or per mile?
Absolutely. So we have 43 people per square kilometer.
Okay.
So as you can imagine, that's a challenge to be able to cover off all of our costs.
Yeah.
You look at the city of Windsor, they have 1,500 per square kilometer. So you can see the difference there and the challenge that we have to make sure that we pay for
So basically that's 43 people paying for a kilometer
Because we've got
rather than 1,500.
We've got 6,500 kilometers of roads, both paved and gravel. That's in one perspective, which is a lot more than any other community around us. We have 850 large bridges. We have 19,000 culverts. All those things which other communities aren't having to deal with. So that's the dilemma we have when it comes to infrastructure.
Awesome. Okay, Ryan Jackson, is it possible to look at increasing industrial tax to offset residential taxes and still remain competitive?
So that's an interesting point. So in budget, we set the budget. We don't set the ratios of industrial, commercial, residential property taxes. So that's actually something that council does outside of budget. So it's certainly something we can talk about, and you can talk about what that right balance might be. But that's a conversation for council outside of the budget process. But that's obviously that's something that we take into account when we get to that point of council considerations.
Awesome. Sue Clark, as a taxpayer listening to these gentlemen, I am feeling better about how my tax dollars will be used. Confident that Chatham-Kent is in good hands now. Okay.
Thanks, Sue.
That's a good one. That's a winning one.
Yeah, we're done. We're out of here. We can't beat that one.
Okay, so we're gonna just wrap that up there. I want to again say thank you, Darrin.
Well, thank you
for coming out, because you can't do these shows without the people, right?
Ben, thank you for doing this, because it gets the word out, allows people to communicate that might not otherwise get out to these meetings, helps us get the word out, because we want to be as transparent as possible in everything we're doing here.
Yeah. And we can't do it without Matthew Tape. He's the man that makes the magic behind here. So when people always say, how you doing this all? Well, he's doing it all. I just kind of sit here and you guys answer questions. It's quite easy for me. And Brock, thank you. And Mike, great to meet you.
Yeah,
and
you as well.
it's great for the community to kind of meet you and understand that position. So thank you guys for putting yourselves out there, answering the tough questions. Some questions we know come in, some questions that we have to follow up with. So thank you very much. And anything you want to add?
There's some questions that our Ward 2 councillors popping up that they can answer about the arena rates dropped by 75%. We'll leave that with them. They can come up with some creative solutions.
And look at that one. There's a hi dad from Megan Canniff. That's nice.
Hi, Dad.
Oh, hi, Megan.
And if you guys could say hi to my mom, Margot Labadie, she's always watching.
Hi, Margot.
And she just loves these things. So thank you very much. And we got Ward 2 councillors coming up, guys, right now. So thank you guys very much. And again, thank you to the Life by Design Center here in Blenheim, the Charlie's Cafe. If you get a chance, get in here, get yourself some coffee, and really just enjoy this place. This is awesome.
The tough questions are just starting to come up now that they're coming. Wouldn't it be about amalgamation? So there you go. There's another one for you.
Okay, so we're gonna just switch it out real quick right now, and we'll be back in 2 minutes. Or are we just gonna keep it live?
Yeah,
Matt? We're
we'll
just gonna
switch
keep it
out.
live, and we're gonna kick them out, and these guys are coming in live here. So
Okay. Okay.
So how are we looking there, Matt? Are we good?
Yeah, you guys are still good.
Okay,
Well, they got us
so
in.
yeah, we're right to it. There's no wait till Matt gives us a signal. We're just right to it. So Trevor, Claire, Anthony, thanks for coming here. And so you guys were at the budget meeting here today.
Yes, we were.
Okay, did you get grilled with some questions there? Because the one thing I love about Blenheim and Ward 2, you always have participation. You guys, just so many people come out and take part in your community and ask
Strong
questions.
community
Yeah,
force.
we had about 30,
Oh,
40
I think
people.
so.
I just
30.
found out
Yep.
that there
Yep.
was 30
Yep.
people that attended. Yes.
Okay.
A lot of it kind of focused in on the infrastructure, which really wasn't
Yeah.
surprising. Infrastructure, gravel roads, not so much the bridges, but mainly the road
Mm-hmm.
surfaces. Erosion was an issue, drainage as well was kind of the things I was hearing. And as well, cost awareness.
Okay. All right. So we're going to grill you with some questions here, because there was some questions that were on here. But first, before I get to them, Anthony and Claire, how are you guys liking the job? Because you're just new to
Go
it.
first.
Loving it. I'm on a huge learning curve, and I really enjoy working with these two gentlemen.
All right. And I see you guys everywhere. Everybody's everywhere, so that's good. Anthony, how you like
I,
it?
you know what? I really enjoy the conversations with
Yes.
people. I really trying to do my best and endeavor to respond back to all the emails and concerns, even if they're not in our ward, so to say, so to speak. But this time, as Trevor said when we first got in, he said ramp it up because this is going to be a busy time. That budget time is you have to be really dedicated, and we've seen that, and I've really enjoyed the process. But it is definitely a learning curve for sure, especially because a lot of stuff is set from 2015, so to speak, to 2019, that 4 year. So, getting used to how we're going to have to address issues in our area is going to take a little bit of time, right? So.
Awesome. Okay, so we got Scott Aikens asking a question. What are your thoughts if you drop arena rates by 75% in Chatham-Kent, take it as a loss for a couple years to get more people back into fitness and into the arenas? Is that a possibility? That's 75%. It's a huge drop.
You're going to have an increase on the other side of the scale then. You'll have more services there, but what other services are you going to do without? And you definitely are going to see significant tax increase if you want to take that big of a hit.
So this is something actually since I've got in, I've been trying to work behind the scenes a little bit on and touching base with the manager of Parks and Rec. So actually, I spoke with him today for about a half hour on the phone, because after we viewed the report, and I viewed the report, we really aren't comparable to other municipalities. But that being said, we have a lot of challenges that a lot of municipalities don't have. We have basically, one arena for every 10,000 people, which is was really unheard of, right? So they are doing a very detailed report that's coming due hopefully before the start of next hockey season. And we are looking at ways to be at least comparable somewhat. But the thing is that 75%, and Trevor can probably speak in more detail, it's just not obtainable. I think right now our rates of subsidizing them is around $95 an hour.
Yeah, some are higher and some are
so
lower, but yeah, it's around that $95 an hour already. So looking at a 75%,
You're gonna double that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard to do. That'll either end up on your taxes. I mean, there would be savings found, as Councillor Sakachi pointed out, but that immediately goes to the taxes. And we all love and support arenas, but that's a trend across Ontario. Hockey usage, skating usage is dropping. As much as it hurts our Canadian blood to say it, it is. So finding other uses for those arenas as well.
And other partnerships. That's what this report is focusing on. Looking at a better use of ice time. But the logistics are, we don't have the people to use the ice time. So what else are you going to do to compensate for that? And that may mean putting in different departments, different programs, partnering with community. We're all awaiting the report from Bothwell, because apparently they've got have a creative model they want to give us a report on. And Mr. Bray alluded to the fact that other arenas should be looking at this, because they've done a bang up job at demonstrating to the municipality, hey, we need our arena, we want to keep our arena, and we're using our arena.
Awesome.
So that's what we have to do across all of Chatham-Kent.
And Blenheim is a well-used arena.
Oh,
So
yes.
One of the highest.
Yeah.
It's one of the highest
Yeah, it
arenas.
is.
We have a great program there. Mr. Kirkwood does a really good job there as well. So I think that we have a really good presence there. It's just that there has some work that has to be done in our municipality in regards to that, and we all see that. It's a matter of adjusting it so it's not going to be effective to the on the tax base, in which it has a direct.
Right.
Yeah.
I got a
Direct
question.
impact.
With the decline in hockey, there is an incline in soccer
Absolutely.
participation.
Yes.
Is soccer turning into the new hockey, where we have to look at, given our location in the world, soccer facilities indoor? Is that something that we should be looking
Definitely
into the future?
something that people have talked about.
Yeah,
And we
absolutely.
need to
It's been
explore more.
discussed, especially in the city of Chatham. They have
Yeah.
multiple arenas. It has been floated, turning Ericsson into an indoor soccer,
Okay.
potentially. Yeah, I think soccer will continue to grow. A lot of it comes down to the ease of which you can get into that sport. It doesn't take off the hop any special skill to learn how to skate or stop, and the equipment costs are a lot lower.
Shin pads and shoes.
Shin pads,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
then the insurance is a lot lower as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
Awesome. Question here from Mark Zane. Would it be possible to decrease business licensing fees for new small businesses? I don't know what the fees exactly are anymore, but is that something, or any fees?
I think it's definitely economic development is looking at things across the board that decrease the red tape and decrease the costs, and lend incentives for people to start new businesses and or expand current businesses.
Okay.
And there's a real focus on that. And I think if you want to send more questions in specific to Stuart McFadden, our economic development director, he'd be more than glad to sit down with a cup of coffee and explain what they're trying to do.
Awesome. Okay, we got one from Kelly Allen. This is a Blenheim-specific question. Many times during the week, there is noticeable people addicted to drugs walking uptown or sleeping at Tim Hortons. Is there any talk about opening a safe place for people to go in Blenheim for either homeless people or users who need that place to go? And that's just not a Blenheim thing.
No,
That
it's
is
not.
No, it's not.
That is a everywhere thing nowadays.
is.
Yeah.
It is, and Blenheim does have an issue with social housing, with places for people to go, absolutely. Even like a men's or women's shelter as well. It is something that the community is aware of. It's something the municipality is aware of too. We haven't found the partnership yet. We haven't found the funding or the people to do it. It is on the radar. I had a meeting. The three of us were at the Blenheim United Church, and that was one of the things that was discussed. Potentially trying to get something going there. It goes back to needing members of the community and partnerships. I mean, the Blenheim Youth Center is a good example of that. There was a need in the community. a group of volunteers saw the need, and the municipality supported them. So until you can get multiple people together, I hate to say it, but you can't just rely on the municipality to front the whole thing. At the very least, you have to bring the energy and the passion, and then we will help you get there.
And I think Councillor Brock did a good job just previous to this, explaining what's happening on the public health forefront across the province. And there's a lot of work being done on this particular issue with across lines, because it's not an easy fix. Throwing money at it and opening up a shelter or opening up a place for people to go is not going to help the issue if you don't have the healing and the what's the word I want to use? The programming there to help individuals who are struggling with mental illness and or addiction to go forward in their lives with the support they need. Yeah. It's not one facet. It's a holistic
And one
approach.
thing I want to add too is I'll put it on the comment feed there too. There is an emergency crisis line too for somebody who needs housing. That they'll try to address it temporarily to help them out. And I do want to make I know that this is a little bit off topic, but I did see a Facebook status today from the Word of Life Church. They celebrated 21 years today of doing outreach for hunger for people.
Yep.
So
Really?
basically feeding people that need
Yep.
a soup kitchen. They basically have been doing it for 21 years, helping people that need a little help, that maybe are in a transition period. And that's a great thing. If someone needs a little bit of help, needs some food, some nourishment, that they offer that here uptown in Blenheim. So.
I also think it's worth noting too, if you see somebody that you're concerned about, an individual in a community or a group of people, please reach out and call that number or call the municipality, and they'll be forwarded to the respective body that will reach out to that individual or group of individuals that day.
Right.
Chantel Perry gave us a really good update on that. Second last council meeting, was it? I can't remember. But they meet their targets. They address the immediate issues within 24 to 48 hours. And they have those monies available, again, through the province that they've garnered. And they're trying. And they've done a very good job in this municipality, if you look at the statistics in addressing homelessness. And it's Home First program.
Right.
Is it Home First? Am I using the right name of the program?
Sounds good.
It's
Sounds like a good program.
Home First, yes.
Okay, we got a question. Ward 2 stretches all the way to Indian Creek, going over the overpass 401.
Maybe on that, yeah.
And our Ward 2 councillors fighting to start developing and building along the 401, as we are the only municipality from here to Montreal that doesn't really do that. Anything in the works? Anything you guys battling for there?
Well, we have the business park that's close, right? And there's is it 2 new businesses going in there, Trevor?
2 new businesses.
Are 2 confirmed and 3 that they're on the plate, is it not? I can't remember.
So
You're just given that update.
One of them I believe closes in the end of January.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
And touching on the 401 is that you have to always be careful when the land is agriculture as well, right?
Very true.
So it's a lot harder to just go into land if it's already deemed agriculture, to just take that away.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people don't. A lot of
Well, the province doesn't allow you to.
But to that point, we're doing the official plan amendment. Well, not the amendment, but the rejig of the official plan, because we have recognized that we have some land that's zoned, say, agriculture, that really should be industrial
That's right.
Yes.
or commercial,
And vice versa.
and vice versa. So I think you will see some growth along the 401 corridor. But again, like you said, the trick is for a lot of it, there's no services as well.
Yeah.
Something we've touched on at the PUC, getting those services out there, because a business wants to see, you know, is there water, is there sewers, is there everything already at the road? And along the 401 right now, there's a lot of spots where that's just simply not the case. So it's going to take some time to push growth to the 401, but I think you will see something over the next few years.
underground infrastructure.
Yeah,
is
absolutely.
expensive.
And we're heading in that direction, but we're not going to be there right away.
Hey guys, thank you very much for your questions tonight. Thank you for participating. Thank you to everybody that's kind of come on here. We had Mayor Darrin Canniff, we had Mike Turner, the CFO, we had Brock McGregor. Before we kind of wrap up, I want to know what you guys are doing to engage community, because you guys got something set up. You're going to do something monthly or every quarterly?
Yeah, at this point, if you don't mind, I would say it's really organic at this point, because we don't know how it's going to grow. So this was something we discussed on October 23rd, opening up basically town halls. We're going to do the first one February 12th at the Legion. 4 of them quarterly right now. Councillor Ladder made mention that we should try and move them to other parts of the municipality and
Other parts of the ward,
right?
yeah.
The north and the south end of the ward. So we're going to try and do that as well. But for honestly, the first couple we're going to see what happens. We're going to see how many people show up, how often they want to get together.
Right.
Do they want to do it monthly? Actually sounds good, but it actually gets really busy
Yeah.
when you do
Yeah.
something monthly. It gets hard. So maybe every other month, maybe every 3 months. I think right now to start. How do we want it to go? Do you want the mayor there? Do you want staff there? Or do you simply want to just sit down and talk to your councilors? So we're going to see how it grows organically and go from there. Yeah.
And I think it'll take on its own form because
Absolutely.
Depending on what they want to talk about, you're going to want to have presentations with regard to that specific issue, and then out of that will come follow-up, right?
Right.
So
We need people,
it'll-
that's one thing, right?
Yes,
So we want
come
to
out.
see engagement. So if we see the engagement, then, it'd be something that we're going to continue.
Right.
And it's important, I think, for us Ward 2 councillors as well to realize that we do have an aspect of Chatham as well. So,
Yes.
there's part of Chatham that we're, that falls under our ward. And
Indian
it's
Creek
important
South.
that we get there. But, right now, it's, we had an offering to use a facility, which was fantastic. So see how it goes. If it's something like this, look at yourself. You had good interaction, and now it's
Yep.
something that you do quite a bit.
Yep.
So hopefully that's
Yeah,
the same
it
thing that
grows.
we do, right? So it works, and then we kind of go from there. Maybe you can even come to some of them.
You know
right?
what? We should do
Yeah.
it the first
Yeah,
one live
sure,
so people
sure.
can.
Yeah.
What is
absolutely.
just get back on that? What is your ratio like? People calling you to texting you to social media. Trevor, you've been in the game for a while.
I would say the bulk of mine is social media and email. And to be honest, that's the easiest thing for me.
Yes.
With my job, it's a 2-minute email. It's no problem. It's great. Sometimes, especially if I'm at work, when I see you ring, I'm like, is this going to be a half-hour thing? Because I do love to talk to you, but I don't have that half hour, right?
Right.
So I will usually leave those either to that night or the next morning. So if you want a response, like immediately, social media or email is the quickest way to
Yeah,
do it.
I would agree.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Now let's just say one more time. Thank you to Jamie Richards.
Yes.
Yes.
This facility's awesome. This is really cool.
It is.
Right?
I
it
love
is.
this
It's cool
place.
to
The
have it
smell is
going on, too.
intoxicating as well.
Yeah,
with the
and you got the
coffee.
great coffee. Oh my! So this is a great spot. And thank you again to Mayor Darrin Canniff for coming out and putting himself out there. Mike Turner, Brock McGregor, Anthony Sakachi, Claire Latimer. What's your name?
Thompson, Trevor.
Are you gonna bring some more syrup?
Bad year. I'm hoping for some cold weather. We need those trees to freeze up solid. But yeah, I'll
Oh
bring you some.
man, the syrup master here. And another thing, people should, if you follow him on Facebook, he does Tales from the Horseshoe, and
Yeah.
they're
Yes.
great. I always enjoy them. And
Thank you.
again, thank you to Matthew Tape for putting this all together for us, and especially thank you for all the people that put in questions, all the
Yes.
people that participate, and that's just just watching and learning and just being part of the process. So thank you guys very much, and thank you for everybody that
And
shared.
Ben, one thing too, everyone here was thanked but yourself. So thank you
Yes.
on behalf of the
There you
community
go.
for all the stuff that you've worked for us. So
Thank you very much.
all right.
But really, they're here for you. Nobody
but-
ever shows up for me.
They're here because of you too, right? So
You're
thank you
an
very
enabler.
much. So.
That's right.
Thank you guys very much. Okay, and thank you and good night.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you.